Alright, what's up? Today we're talking about my Nuzlocke attempt number 10, baby. We finally beat Pokemon Shield with the hardcore Nuzlocke rule set. And I'm so happy it's over. If you know me, you know I'm not a huge fan of the Gen 8 games, so just to have this done is honestly so nice. I kind of just want to talk about my experience, kind of some choke points, I guess, and the eventual team that I used to beat the run. So, first of all, I added a couple extra rules in to make it more difficult, which in hindsight was probably not necessary. I had enough attempts that, yeah, it wasn't. I don't know if I needed the extra difficulty, but that aside, I think one of the rules I think was good. I'm going to keep it for future Nuzlocks, that being that setup moves, right? Any move that raises one of your stats, you can only use one move per Pokemon per battle, right? So that would mean if I brought 6 Pokemon, each with, one or more setup moves, I could only use 6 total setup moves per battle, right? And of course, obviously, I ended up using a lot less than that. Now, yeah, and then the other rule I had was Dynamax essentially counted as your held item, right? So in the Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, held items are allowed, but no other items are. And so, yeah, for this one, if you Dynamax, you couldn't hold an item. And so I just had to plan around that. In theory, this sounds like it's going to make the game a lot harder, but in practice, what it meant was I usually had to beat gym leaders with 2 Pokemon instead of 1 Pokemon. So I wouldn't say it made it that much harder. Some of the harder gym leaders you might have to play around a little bit more, but yeah, overall not too bad. But yeah, so some choke points, some really difficult parts of the run. Nessa, honestly, is pretty terrible. If you have a grass type, I don't think she's that bad at all. I think I don't want to say free, but not difficult, right? Because her ace, Dreadnought, quite a beast, but does have that 4 times weakness. But yeah, if you don't have a grass type for Nessa, I think it's a terrible battle. I don't envy anyone who has to do that to do it. It's sort of comparable to Brock in the first gen games, Red and Blue, and Yellow, right? If you're using Charmander and Pikachu, to Nuzlocke, Brock is honestly a run killer, and if you're using Bulbasaur and Squirtle, Brock is basically free. I think it's very, very comparable to that. Yeah, Nessa, you really need a grass type, or the gym just sucks really, really bad. So that makes Grookey, by the way. Grookey is the best starter by far for that reason. But there are some grass options, especially if you plan your wild area encounters carefully, the date correctly, all that stuff. I think it's perfectly doable. Other hard gym leaders, Alistair, yeah, that Gengar is a nightmare, and we'll probably talk more about that later because you have to fight him again in the Elite Four, or I should say the final tournament. Let's see, Bede isn't hard per se, but you need to plan for him. Let's see. I don't think Opal's that bad. Melanie, pretty bad. Oh, yeah, Shield, by the way, obviously, so I'm not fighting whatever her name is, B, is that right? Or Bay? I don't know. I'm only fighting Alistair, who's super tough. I think Alistair is incredibly tough and interesting gym leader. It's kind of a shame that Sword didn't get him, but I didn't play Sword, so maybe the fighting gym leader is really great in that game. But yeah, no, I think Melanie's pretty tough. Ice gym leaders are sort of infamously really, really bad and really easy in the Pokemon games. But she actually has a really good team. I think Ice Q, you have to plan around. Darmanitan is a crazy high attack. Although I don't remember it actually attacking me. Frostmoth is free, but Lapras, super good typing, super good signature move, great coverage, right? So yeah, pretty nasty team to deal with. Uh, but not the worst. Piers is super interesting. I don't think Piers is hard, but I don't think Piers is easy per se, except for the fact that it's late game and three of his Pokemon have a quadruple weakness, one for each of Dark's weaknesses, respectively. And so that makes that honestly makes it a lot easier. Skuntank is the last Pokemon, but it's not as threatening as the other three offensively. And so yeah, it's just fine. Let's see. Oh, and then Raihan. I think Raihan is actually pretty difficult. On on net, he's probably the hardest gym leader, probably. But it's late game, so you're more used to planning fights at that point. Also, I should say I was doing this Nuzlocke blind, so just all that meant was I had to learn through a lot of trial and error, right? Which this would not have taken 10 attempts if I was not playing blind. I'm just gonna say that right now. But yeah, no. I don't think I lost to any single trainer twice besides Leon. I think I did lose to Leon twice, I think. Who, of course, is the hardest fight in the game. Level cap is crazy. But yeah, basically how I ran the final gauntlet was I had two teams. One team was for the tournament itself, and one team was for the, I guess, plot, quote unquote, which would be Oleana, the grunts, I guess, that were helping her, Chairman Rose, and Eternatus, right? So one team was just to counter those things, and then hop all the way through Leon. I had a team for that as well, which I'm glad I did. That is, I guess you could argue that you should just take one team, but that's like literally 10 battles, 10 major battles in a row, plus the grunts, and you're already getting like, I don't know. I feel like it would make Leon a bit easy. Maybe. I guess I would, if I did it again, not that I would. Screw that. But if I did it again, I might consider using just one team, but certainly quite difficult. But yeah, let's see. So the tournament itself, yeah, so that's what I want to focus on because those are the hardest battles. I kind of just used like a kind of B squad, quote unquote, of like fire and poison resists for Eternatus and the Rose stuff. But yeah, for the tournament itself, I chose 6 Pokemon, those being Dracovish, Barbaracle, Mudsdale, Togekiss, Rillaboom, and Obstagoon. Those are my 6. And they were all somewhat useful. Barbaracle was the least useful. Barbaracle I brought for one reason only, and that's for Leon's Charizard. That's not true. It came from more than that. But like the main reason Barbaracle was there was for Leon's Charizard, and we didn't actually end up using it. The only other fight Barbaracle really came to, where it was sent out in battle, was versus Raihan against his Torkoal lead. And like an idiot, I didn't think about Solar Beam, and so of course Torkoal just one-shots me. Mind you, I was holding Sash on Barbaracle just in case we got blown up, which we did. So I did save Barbaracle. No Pokemon died during the run. Well, except for Togekiss. We'll get to that. But yeah, Barbaracle was sent down to Sash, and it was basically useless for the rest of the battle and for the rest of the run. So pretty cool. I was trying to use Shell Smash, but now it just wasn't working. If there was like a good 100% accurate rock move, maybe Barbaracle could have worked a little better, but there isn't. So it was just too risky to keep it in. Dracovish was probably the next most useless Pokemon. Um, it did, I think, sweep Alistair's team with the exception of his ace, which is really good. But the unfortunate thing about Dracovish is that its signature move, Fishious Rend, I actually had the perfect nature for. It was a speed raising nature and special attack lowering nature, which, if you know Fishious Rend, that's the perfect nature because to roll for a Nuzlocke because you need to be faster than your opponent, but it doubles the damage. Um, and so, yeah, with a Choice Scarf, I think, honestly, Dracovish could have really popped off. It also had the Strong Jaw ability, so Fishious Rend gets another stab multiplier on top of its original stab multiplier and its double damage multiplier. Yeah, just insane. As long as you can outspeed, you're pretty much good. Which, I think Dracovish is 75 base speed, so it's not, like, the fastest, but in a Nuzlocke, it's, like, very doable if you EV train, honestly. But yeah, because Fishious Rend, you unlock it, you get the move at such a high level, I wasn't actually able to use Dracovish's signature move for the tournament, and so it felt a lot weaker than it could have, I guess. Strong Jaw is still super good. It gives it stab on its coverage moves. And so, yeah, a good Pokemon, pretty good stats. I was happy to use it. Dragon types are fun. I don't get a lot of Dragon types in Nuzlocke, so it was fun to use. But yeah, other than that, Dracovish didn't feel super useful. The next most useful Pokemon was probably Obstagoon. Obstagoon was, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, Obstagoon was there for 2 fights, or to cover 2 specific Pokemon. Those being Leon's Dragapult and Alistair's Gengar. Alistair's Gengar was honestly the biggest one, because in a vacuum, even though Dark Normal isn't that good of a type, it does have the theoretical best matchup into Ghost types. The issue is Gengar gets Stab, Sledge Bomb, which is really, really bad because Gengar hits like a truck, and Sledge Bomb also raises its special attack, and I don't resist it with Obstagoon. So that was a nightmare. We didn't, yeah. My plan was to switch Obstagoon on like a signature move, and then yeah, just be immune to it, and then Dynamax after. But unfortunately, we took a Sludge Bomb, did a lot of damage. We still clutched it out, right? Because we EV trained basically full HP, full attack for Obstagoon, which was super, super helpful. I think it did 4 points of special defense, which, yeah, basically meant that I could both tank Sludge Bomb, probably one Sludge Bomb and one Sludge Bomb crit, and one-shot Gengar, right? I didn't do any calcs for this run, so I didn't know that going in, but I was like, I think this gives me the best odds of taking down Gengar, and that's what happened. We took it down. And then the other one was Dragapult, which we didn't actually... I don't think we actually ended up using Dracovish... Sorry, not Dracovish, Obstagoon on. I could be wrong, though. Yeah. But I don't think we used Dracovish at all for the last fight. Which, again, we'll get to later when we talk about the best Pokemon for this run. The next most important Pokemon was Rillaboom. Rillaboom was, yeah, essentially just our Nessa counter, right? And specifically our Dreadnought counter. And actually, now that I think about it, Rillaboom was able to 1v1 very easily Seismitoad as well. Super, super helpful. Was it Seismitoad? Yeah, it was. It was either Seismitoad or a period. I'm pretty sure it was Seismitoad, yeah. But yeah, super, super clutch there. Rillaboom is obviously just a great, great Pokemon. It's even good in VGC, so no surprise it was the best Nuzlocker. But yeah, not much else to say about that. I think Rillaboom was our 3rd best poke for that run. Second best, I would have to give to Mudsdale. Mudsdale is an absolute unit. It has pretty bad speed, but really good at everything else. I guess special attack isn't that good, but you're not using it for special attack, so that's fine. Hits like a truck, tanks damage like crazy. This thing was just a special wall as well, because of the way I trained it. It's gets steel coverage. Yeah, Earthquake just kills everything. Yeah, there's not much else to say about it. Stab Earthquake is already insane, and when you give it to a really, really good Pokemon like Mudsdale, it's just gonna run over everything. Uh, we were able to set up Stealth Rocks on Aegislash, and actually Mudsdale, thanks to those Stealth Rocks, was able to like basically do half of G-Max Charizard's health, which was super, super good. And yeah, pretty insane. Pretty insane Pokemon. It came to like so many fights. Yeah, Mudsdale was insane, honestly. Not much else to say about it. I think yeah, it helped. It helped with basically everything. It was able to sweep like Hopper Marnie. Yeah, just it's just a crazy good Pokemon. Let's see, and that brings us to Togekiss, who was I didn't realize Togekiss's game. I found out just in the last run number 10, that Togekiss was a guaranteed encounter because you get a gift Toxel and you can trade Toxel for a Togepi. So yeah, Togekiss was an insane pull. I cannot believe that's a guaranteed encounter because Togekiss is really, really, really broken. And yeah, it was the only Pokemon I trained in Special Attack. And it's the only Pokemon I trained in Speed, and I maxed both of those. This thing was insane. Hit like a truck, outsped so much. It gets like Serene Grace, Air Slash, Flinch Shenanigans, and probably best of all, it gets Fast Encore, which means that I was able to switch into, for example, Leon's Haxorus and force it to outrage me over and over while I set up and swept Leon's team. That's why we didn't bring Barbaracle to the last fight. That's why we didn't bring Dracovish to the last fight, was because Togekiss killed everything. And I do mean everything. Leon's Charizard, right, took half damage from the Stealth Rocks. And it sets up Sandstorm with Max Rockfall, right? Kills Togekiss. Terrible, sad. That's the only Pokemon. That's the only death I had. But then Togekiss, right, gets an Air Slash off before it hits, brings it down to like super low rate HP, and then the Sandstorm it sets up for Max Rockfall knocks Charizard out. So Togekiss not only like swept the entire team, it basically 1v1'd G-Max Charizard without Dynamaxing, because Togekiss was not my Dynamax attacker. That was Barbaracle. So I was not allowed to Dynamax Togekiss. I just had to like take the Air Slash, take the L, go down, and then send a Barbaracle next. But Togekiss, between Mudsdale's freaking Stealth Rocks and Togekiss's Air Slash, which couldn't flinch, right, even though Serene Grace, because it was Dynamax, was able to take it out, which is huge deal. And then also we uncard other Pokemon, like I think Golisopod was uncarded in Swords Dance. We just were able to set up and sweep Nessa. So yeah, super clutch. Togekiss is an amazing Dynamax Pokemon, and I recommend it for you as well. So that was my experience. I know I was speaking kind of fast there, and I know it was kind of a long video, but I just wanted to share my experience Nuzlocking Pokemon Shield. I don't like those games, and maybe I'll do a video one day where I talk about why I don't like those games, but suffice to say that I'm done with the game for a while, and I'm really happy I got it done, and yeah. See you later. Peace out.